everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson. I'll be your host for this week. Once again, I'm joined by Scott and Joris. Guys, how are you doing? Did you enjoy the opening weekend of action?
I did, much so, more so than last year. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all well. I hear rumours of a format change here at the BFP. What's this all about?
Yeah, strange things never happens in Belgian football anyway. So yeah, so here we are. I'll leave Ben to the honors to introducing that. But I could have enjoyed it a little bit more for understandable reasons, I guess. Coming back to the first weekend.
Yeah, no, in true kind of Belgian football fashion, we decided to change the format. Although, to be fair, we've only changed it, I think this is probably the second time we've changed it. So we're actually a little bit behind. So maybe we should do a bit of catching up. But no, we kind of, at the end of last season, there was a couple of episodes we did which were a little bit looser. We didn't go for every single game, and we thought, actually, this is a lot more enjoyable than going into every single game. So we've kind of loosened the structure a little bit. We'll give you the results, and then we'll kind of pick up a couple of topics each week. Feel free to get in touch if there's anything you kind of want us to cover a little bit more in the next episode, and we'll consider it. I won't make any promises, but we'll definitely consider it. But before we get into the first section of the podcast, let me quickly actually run through the results from the opening weekend, just in case you have no idea what Joris was talking about just then. We kicked off with Antwerp against Union. That game finished 1 goal apiece. Dender then drew 0-0 with Club Brugge. KV Mechelen were winning 1-0 until very late against Zulte Waregem, and on the stream that I was watching of the game, the Flemish commentator had literally just said before the penalty was awarded that Mechelen looked to be on course to be the first side to win this season. So absolute curse of the commentator. That one finished 1-1. Standard Liège followed that up by actually becoming the first team to win this weekend. They beat newly promoted Real 2-0. Anderlecht thumped Westerlo eventually on Sunday. That one finished 5-2. Leuven were 2-0 up, and in going into the 90th minute, they were still 2-0 up. By the end of the game, it was 2-2 against Charleroi. Club Brugge beat Genk by 2-1, and then Sint-Truiden beat Ghent 3-1. So I thought to kind of kickstart the season, we should start with some kind of hot takes, but hot takes that are just far too early to be made at this point in the season. We're literally only 190 minutes from each club down. So I asked the guys to come up with a hot take for the season already, and let's see how these kind of pan out. Joris, I see, has added his in, so I kind of know where he might be going with this one. Scott, I actually have no idea what he's going to bring up. So I'm going to go to you first, Scott, because I'm intrigued to see what you're going to come up with.
Okay, I'll drop this particular hot take in, and they haven't paid me to say this, the fans of this team, but Standard Liège will make playoff 1. That's my first hot take of the season, and in the spirit of debatable hot takes, I think it is quite debatable, but let's throw that one into the mix and start the fight on that now.
What do we think, Josh? Do you think it's spicy? Because I'm part of me had them down as a top kind of side, but I guess, Scott, we'd have to say who are the other teams that you think are going to make it, and who do you think is going to miss out?
Well, I think Ghent are definitely going to miss out, which isn't a hot take in itself. I think they're a side, obviously, with a lot of rebalancing and restructuring to do, and I think that's going to take a good number of weeks yet. So I think they're going to lose a lot of ground. We know it's about the marathon and not the sprint, so I'm sure they'll be all right. But I'm kind of expecting them to miss out again. It might possibly be at Ghent's expense. I just see more goals in this Standard side at the moment than I do in the Ghent one. Plenty of time for that to change, of course, but I think what we saw last season was generally when they went ahead in games, they were able to kind of see out those particular games and get points, and now there's a little bit more firepower in there. If it works out even reasonably well, not even really well, then I think they've got a real shout of kind of squeaking in there. I just kind of feel a bit more confident about them. And actually, you can't read too much into the opening weekend, obviously, particularly with who they're playing, because we're playing Real, one of the newly promoted sides. But I just there's just a feeling I've got about them that they might have, a much more stable season than people expect. So many factors are going to influence this, whether people stay fit and things we touched on the preview. But I have a feeling that they might exceed many expectations this year, including their own. Although to be really fair, they haven't hid the fact that this is kind of what their target is, which I thought was a bit silly when they said this 2 or 3 weeks back. I thought, no, just, keep it zipped, say as little as possible, because then if it goes well, then, you can change otherwise you end up with egg in your face. But because they are the size of club that they are, they've come out and nailed their colours to the mast and said, playoff one is what we're going for. We're Standard Liège. And I have a feeling that they will achieve that objective.
I mean, they started like a house on fire, I guess, in that game. 5 minutes in, Thomas Henry scores his debut goal for the side. He is now 1 goal away from matching last season's tally in a lot fewer games. So that was a good start. And then obviously they were kind of gifted that penalty to make it 2-0. But there were some impressive performances in that side. Like I thought Jose Homowu at the back looked all right. He had a pretty solid game. I mean, Ral did create some chances, looked like they had scored, but they were denied by VAR, which, was a little bit unfortunate. We'll maybe get to Ghent a little bit later, but I kind of, you can see them missing out. But then I guess for Ghent, they'd say, well, we probably want to miss out because then we can win playoff 2 and then we can win the playoffs as well. Just kind of pushing you a little bit more on that, Scott. Do you think they could? Do you think? I'm obviously making you make it an even spicier take, but do you think Standard would qualify for European football in the top 6, or do you think they'd actually have a similar experience to kind of Antwerp and Ghent of last season, where the top 6 would just be too much, kind of too many big, harder games for them to sustain like any sort of kind of challenge on one of those European positions?
Yeah, I don't think I'm not convinced Europe's achievable unless all of that new firepower has come in, performs consistently well, and it's far too early, obviously, to know that yet. I think if they do that, then I mean, possibly. I mean, I think there are goals in more than one area on this side now, and that's a different thing. And one of the things, looking at them this weekend, just on the basis of one game, was there's a bit more speed and power in the side now, and that's really important. No matter who you are in Belgium, you need a bit of that to some extent in your side, and they've got that. So in terms of the tools, they are a little bit stronger to perform better. It's just whether they're going to consistently do that, and I just have a feeling they might surprise a few. It'll be really interesting to see how they get on against the fellow big boys as well, because that obviously is going to have probably the biggest bearing on it ultimately. How are they going to compete with their real competitors? And they've got a decent fixture schedule as well, so they've got a chance to rack up, a few points early on as well, which will just help with positivity and momentum if they can do that. And I think that's another thing that makes me think they could be on course to, surprise a few.
How many goals will they score in the regular season, do you think? Compared to last season, if I'm not mistaken, it's 22. Will they double that?
Probably somewhere in between, I think. I would say somewhere in between. At least that. I'd like to think at least that, because we know how, notoriously, blunt they were up front last season. But as I was saying, there's more than there's goals coming from more than one area in that pitch, I think, potentially, and that's the first time I think we could maybe say that potentially about Standard as far as this hot take goes for years actually. And that's kind of that's a bit exciting if it comes to pass.
It definitely feels the most positive we've been about Standard going into a season for some time, and I mean, obviously, there's levels to that. You look at the team that started, and then you look at some of the players coming off the bench, and it's like there's more experience, there's a little bit more like kind of excitement coming off the bench than there has been in previous seasons. I was interested Sahabo started in midfield after his loan spell at Beerschot. That was quite cool. I quite like to see that he got a chance in there again alongside the Madagascar Pele, who obviously got himself off the mark as well from the spot. My hot take is also to do with Standard, so I'm going to leave mine until after Joris has done his. Joris, over to you for yours.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. I have a few noted, but they're all, lukewarm takes maybe. But I'll stick with and look at the other end of the table. If it's really a hot take, is another thing again. But like, I feel like if anyone goes down, based on this first, really on the first game, of course, that will be Cercle Brugge in the end. If someone goes down, of course, I actually don't think that there anyone will it. If someone goes down, their goal scoring struggles continue. They got very well, not lucky, of course, because they do have a good goalkeeper in goal, so that's of course a very important part of a team as well and a player. But that probably made this for me the save of the weekend as well, in the Lange. On Schedler, I believe it was in right around the end of the game, like 82nd minute or something like that, to get more details. But yeah, but like I said in the previews, I'm not completely convinced on him for a full season as a goalkeeper either. Maybe they will also indeed still invest with that, and maybe his performances do get more consistent and consistently good as this one. But I do feel like they really struggle. They're not the only side, but that are. But since they already had that issue last year and are so far very prematurely repeating that as well. That's not a sentence, but okay, you get what I mean. But yeah, they are. I see them really having struggles with scoring goals and at defense. I'm really not convinced. Like, it shows actually again that the goalkeeper actually had to save them multiple times in this game. Against probably, like, with all due respect, not one of the better sides in the league either. So okay, of course, an away game, of course, also like all the caveats can come in, but okay, a hot take is a hot take, so for reasons.
No need to caveat the hot take.
But exactly, but no, my feeling so far is they are one of my relegation candidates. Is it a hot take or not? I'm already gonna question it myself though, because last season they were already in the playdowns as well, of course. But I'll leave that up to you. Otherwise, I can switch to something else that is probably even less of a hot take as well.
I think anytime you predict a team to get relegated after the first game of the season, that's a hot take, in my opinion, regardless of, and especially if you haven't picked two of the sides that have just been promoted as well. So I'm going to give you that one. And yes, that was a funny game because I watched it, and those first kind of 10 minutes, Cercle were all over Dender, like they're pressing them, they were like high intensity and everything. And you're like, oh, okay, like we're back, we're onto something here. And then something just happened. I don't know, Dender just kind of decided to turn up and take control of the game. Kvet almost scored one of the early goal of the season, contender, dribbling. I think he went past three players and hit the post. Then Dender probably should have scored within that moment. And yeah, like Cercle really did have to kind of sit back and rely on Delaga for that. Scott, obviously you wrote your piece on Sanel about kind of what he would bring. Did you notice like much difference? Obviously I mentioned the pressing in that first 10 minutes, but then things seem to peter out. Joris is obviously concerned about the defence, and we're concerned about the forward line. Like, those are definitely two places you don't want to be concerned about, even this early in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kind of the first 15, 20 minutes, saw a very recognisable Cercle Brugge. The template that they've been so good at was very much evident there. And actually, this was kind of an odd game. It was always going to be, I think, very physical, and it was going to be quite tight, and not a great watch. All of which proved to be the case. But they couldn't maintain any aspect of kind of the press, and I thought the coordination of the lines wasn't right, and I just being very early in the season and players not being at the fitness levels quite yet, I think started to show in this particular game. As that improves, you would imagine they'll be able to maintain that intensity kind of a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, Joris's key point about, particularly from an offensive point of view, they created very, very little in the game. I mean, Dender did as well, although they created the better opportunities. It was the right result, the goal of straw. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest takeaway from it. And it's a complete mirror of what we saw last season, really. In that up front, it was just pretty slim pickings, I think. And yeah, who's gonna step into that goal scoring mould and say, "Nah, I'm going to have this." You know, it was interesting to see kind of Ngura playing up front with Minda, them switching around a little bit as well, I think. And I think Sunel's still playing around a little bit, still tinkering, still getting to know these players clearly, because it's very early. But the system you'll have them playing is very demanding. It's going to be physically, and that shouldn't be news to any of these players, even the new ones. You know what I mean? That there's plenty of people there who kind of know what's expected. So what's changed will be changes of emphasis and tweaks tactically, rather than a wholesale change in a kind of playing style. So they're not being asked to do anything kind of, you know, that's going to surprise them or be outside the box for any of them. So it's just about getting fitter. And yeah, I think they do need to bring in another striker. That's the bottom line. I agree. I think at the back there are question marks, but I don't think they can afford to go through the rest of this window. And there's still a good few weeks yet. Yeah, we've got another month, another 4 to 5 weeks, without bringing somebody else in. And I would just like to see them maybe bring in somebody with a bit of experience. Even if it's just a short-term thing for a year or 18 months, just somebody there that's another option possible, even if that's not their long-term preferred option up front. But they need kind of something more there, because you can't assume that things are just going to start clicking, and it is all going to come down to, as I was saying in the preview with Circle, whether these players respond to Sunel and kind of that approach. But yeah, there are a few worrying signals there based on that first game, which, caveat again, folks, you can't read that much into.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think my concern around the striker thing is I think the fear is where they're going to get the striker from, and how old is he going to be? Is kind of my concern, because we know the policy. Ngura's obviously only 20. I think there's moments you see of him that you're like, okay, no, I can see kind of a slight denky in him, a little bit of what they need, but it's not consistent enough yet, which is fine because he's 20. You don't necessarily expect that from a player of that age just yet. But with the situation they kind of need someone that they can rely on in that position. And it's are they going to go and get someone who's 26, 27? Who's that going to be? How much is that going to cost? They have to kind of go outside of the scouting realms. Yeah, go for it.
I know a site they could knock on the door and maybe get even 1 or 2 strikers inside the Belgian league. I think it's your favorite transfer policy site so far this season as well.
First, they will keep their strikers until the very end. They're not allowed to leave at any point, and they have to keep signing more every season. And they only sign 18-year-olds as well. So I think the oldest that Cercle could sign would be Kian Vassen. Do you think Vassen would be the answer to their striking problems? I think it'd be an upgrade on Ngura, but I can't see him
That's what I would say, at least. Yes, yeah. I think it still would be an upgrade. And what that says is then again up for debate, I guess.
Yeah, he didn't really set things alight with Willem last season, and then he got relegated. So kind of you don't want serial relegators like our friend Sissako in the side, do you? No, it's definitely concerning, but they've obviously got time, and I'm sure they know that things aren't ready in that situation, in that position, especially. They must be working on some things, and knowing Circular, they'll just pull something out the hat, and they'll just announce a signing without any sort of rumor or anything going with it. It's quite refreshing, actually. It's very old school, isn't it? You don't get your Fabrizio Romanos and all that tweeting 500 times about Circular signing a player. It's just bang, announcement, here's the player that we've signed. Like the good old days. My hot take, which I will throw back to you guys as well. One name I've put down here is definitely an absolute pipe dream, and it's it'd be incredible if this happened, and I think I'd probably retire from the podcast. But my hot take was that the Ebony Shoe will head its way to Standard Liège this season. At first, I put Marco Limaricha. Everyone knows I love this man. If he ends up winning, yes, I probably will have to retire from the podcast, because I don't think anything will get better than that. But I then went, no, it's Matteo Povlo could possibly win it. And Joris, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that'd be the first goalkeeper to ever win that award. I have just checked through all the names, and I didn't see any goalkeepers there.
I will have to quickly do that myself as well, but I'll get back to you.
I presume the only other one I could think of that would probably be in contention would be Copper Barry, but I don't think he ever did win it. So that'd be a massive, massive kind of achievement if he did win it. His performance was great against Real. He made a couple of fantastic saves. Obviously, we know last season, the longer the season went on, the kind of he started to get a little bit sketchy, a little bit iffy. So then he was dropped. But I'm hoping that's kind of given him the confidence now that he's stepped back in to maybe be like, no, I've developed a bit. I'm going to show what I'm capable of. Because if he has a good season, I believe he could definitely win that award. And then I was like, do you guys have any other names that you'd probably early season chuck in as contenders? There was a kid, one of the Genk winger, I think looked quite good at the weekend. He could possibly win. Scott, I don't know if you've got a couple of other names, but I think Apollo's, he's going to be in with a shout.
I'll tell you something I did notice about him actually was he looks like he's aged quite a lot, and I mean that in a good way. I don't mean aged through the weariness of a purple patch at Standard. He looks like he's beefed out a little bit as well. I think he's been in the gym a little bit. And he just looks physically slightly different this year because I think he's decided, no, I'm going to grasp the nettle here, because obviously there was a doubt for a lot of the second half of the season, particularly whether he was going to really be the number one at the start of the season. There was also a little window there where it looked like he may well have been going out. It might have been all over as well. So he's had kind of quite a ride in lots of ways, and I think that experience last season really now will stand him in good stead this year. I think he'll be a more confident keeper than he was before. Let's see if he's been working on his footwork, because we know that was the slightly weaker part of his game, perhaps. Really important part for all goalkeepers. On a weekend, a great weekend for goalkeepers as well. I'm sure we'll touch more upon that in a minute. He looks a different package this year, I think. He looks a little bit more confident, and I think that's a good thing. And I think and being dropped into being the number one for a lot of last season and forced upon Standard, I think, despite some wobbly moments where he was probably over-criticised a wee bit, I think anyway, I think that's the sort of thing that makes you a better goalkeeper, I think. Be interesting to see how he progresses, because it feels like we've got a lot of goalkeepers in the Pro League this season who are, pretty decent.
You were right as well, Ben. I've also quickly went through it. And indeed, I would also have mentioned Copa as the only one. He became second 1 year, so that's the closest anyone got. So he could also just equal that at that defense. In principle, indeed, it sounds like a really like a real hot take, I guess. Indeed, like outside left field pick, but. I'm starting to think about things, and like I'm also checking like now, since I have that page open, like the last few years who was on the podium. Like most of them actually already left. There's two Genk ones still staying, of which at least one is definitely going. So that's the last year's winner, Tolu and Eluwadi. Where that could be a good shout as well. Like if he stays, because I've got a feeling he might stay. But then again, also for a winger, a right wing back actually is or back. It's also quite rare to win such a competition. But I guess the goalkeeper maybe he still can win in that case, of course. And they mentioned Sternberg as well, the Deji Sternberg. Could be as well, of course. Just sticking with Genk. I'm trying not to talk too much about Genk, but in this case, it just came up. I'm also trying to memorize others. Yeah, of course, if Onyedika would be staying, that's another big question mark. He's always going to be a big possibility there as well. There's plenty of players we're overlooking at the moment as well, but I'm just trying to think about some other options. But I guess that they will indeed be most likely circling in the top teams, and then also just given history basically of the award. Onyedika, Luari, that seemed to be in up front. Maybe the other or good option shouts as well for this award as well. But we will have to obviously see it. given all that, I would not be completely surprised if Apollo made the podium at least on that award. So I would not be completely surprised. So good hot take. Even though it's still left field, so that's
it gets
perfect.
less as you go through it, isn't it? Like, that's the thing I was thinking. Like, you start to go through the names, and you're like, well, yeah, if he's the best keeper in the league at the end of the season, like, if he's one of the top performing keepers, he could. Because if the strikers aren't there that we've had in recent years, unless someone like we obviously looks like Ivanovic is going to leave Union. If Fuseni steps up and suddenly he starts banging in goals for fun, he could be an option. Niang as well at Union if he starts chipping in more goals and assists. Another player I liked the look of this weekend, but I don't think he's ever going to score enough goals or assists to be in contention, and I don't even know like how consistent he's going to be. But Abdoulaye Traore at Zulte Waregem looked quite exciting and kind of energetic and fresh, and really took the game to Mechelen. A couple of times he needed to make better decisions, but he looked like a pretty exciting player.
I guess we also forgot one of the most likely players to get that one if he stays as well, but which is Promise David as well, of course. At Union, so like, of course, if he confirms his season of last year as well, I guess for last year he probably would have been a contender for a podium if he actually fired on a little earlier on in the season as well. In probably the votes, or many of the votes, are already in before. He actually made the impact he had. So we, that one definitely deserves a mention. And there's, like I said, there's definitely more that we're forgetting, but it's good to have a few shouts in it and to think about it at least. Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't know how much AFCON will have a part to play in it. Obviously, we've got that in the middle of the year, so maybe some people that stay behind can get a little bit of a head start, or maybe someone goes there, performs really well, and that factors into it. Like, there's so many different things that can happen. Speaking of goalkeepers, Scott almost like set up the perfect segue, but then we had to keep talking about other things anyway, so we kind of had to detract from it. So if you just forget everything we just said from when Scott talked about there's some great goalkeepers in the league, we had a little bit of goalkeeper news that I think we should probably touch on, because it's quite relevant to the weekend's performances. Obviously, we mentioned the Club Brugge Genk game. Simon Mignolet, he's 37, but he had a fantastic game in between the sticks again. And I remember a couple of seasons ago, we kind of had a little bit of a discussion as to whether he's finished, because he was looking a little bit ropey. He was starting to kind of decline a bit. But since then, he's just seemed to be going on a really nice trajectory. Obviously, they had Norden Jackers that they brought in, performed really, really well when Mignolet was injured. And again, last season, during the time that Mignolet was injured, Jackers came in and played really well. Jackers is 27. That's kind of like, he's entering his prime as a goalkeeper. He needs to be playing matches. Prior to the season, I think we spoke about it in the preview, there was a kind of question mark around the goalkeeping situation, which seemed a bit bizarre because it's like, it was obviously going to be, if Mignolet is there, he's probably going to start because let's just say he's a big name in that dressing room. He's a big personality in that club. He's been there during the successful seasons. Like, he's going to be able to throw his weight around a little bit more than Jackers will. It seems that they had a meeting, which sounds like quite a funny way of putting it, because apparently they actually get on really, really well. From what I've read, there's no kind of animosity between the two of them. They get on pretty well. And it was decided that Mignolet would now take over doing all the European kind of qualifier games. Jackers would then go on the domestic games. I think the idea was to keep Mignolet fresh, is one of the things I read for the Champions League. But I think it was last news, is it Niels Poissonnier? Joris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He said, I'm not going to read out the Dutch because I'll absolutely butcher it, but he said club with this decision are skating on thin ice. And I kind of agree with him, because I feel like you can do it now while you've got these qualifiers coming thick and fast, and then you're going to do it when the European season starts. But it just seems like a very weird thing to be doing. It's like you're trying to please both of them, but in the end, you're probably not going to please either of them, because Mignolet, we know what he's like. He's 37. He wants to play as many games as he can until he retires. Like, that's just the kind of mentality that he has. And he said that as well. He's like, I need to play to stay sharp. I want to play to stay sharp. Like, that's what most of those kind of veteran players have said. Jackers we haven't really heard from Jackers. I don't know if you guys have heard anything in the media from him, but I feel like he doesn't really speak out as much as Mignolet, because Mignolet's obviously in front of the camera a lot more. But we've been saying for a while, even when he was at Leuven on the bench, like, this guy needs to play. He's a really good goalkeeper. We saw him when he was at Varsland Beveren. Me and Scott probably rated him a little bit higher than Joris did, and maybe we still do rate him a little bit higher than Joris. You can obviously speak to that, but yeah, I just feel like it's not it's not a great solution. It is a solution to the issue that they're facing. The other solution, I guess, is to sell one of them, and the one with the most value would probably be Jackers at the moment, just because Mignolet's at the age that he is. But do you think, and my kind of thoughts on this are that I think they expected Mignolet to decline a lot sooner than he has, and now they're in a situation, and they were kind of hoping his decline would come within the next 2 seasons so they could just put Jackers into that position. But it's kind of like not actually happening at this moment, and they're now stuck with this awkward situation where they've got 2 goalkeepers, one a veteran leader in the side, another coming into his prime who just wants to play and needs to play because otherwise he's just going to completely stagnate. So it's a tricky situation. I don't think this is the best solution, but then I don't know what the other solution is. Is probably not something the club actually want to take. But yeah, interested to hear your guys' thoughts, and then maybe we can. There was some great goalkeeping performance that we could probably highlight as well from across the opening match week alongside Mignolet's.
Well, I just don't get it. I was racking my brains thinking, have I seen anything like this decision making anywhere before? Now, it's not unusual, obviously, like in lots of leagues, sometimes where you'll see another goalkeeper maybe in goal for some of the domestic cup competitions to give him a few games during the course of the season, but to come out so early and say, right, okay, August is a busy month. One of you is going to play in Europe, the other one's going to play the domestic games. Just seems odd to me. I mean, I get this thing about wanting to keep both of them happy because I think they both are quite big personalities, but in very different ways. Mignolet has a massive reputation, not only at club, but within Belgian football generally. Very well known in the media as well. I think, Jackers is, as Ben was saying, much quieter, more of a background figure. But the thing with Jackers is, I think there is this sense that, he's 27 now, he's kind of approaching his peak in terms of his age, although he's got a long time to go yet as a goalkeeper. He could be between the sticks for another 10 years somewhere, really. So he's still got a huge part of his career to go. I think Ben's right. I think the possibly was a feeling that transition might have started a little bit earlier, and this is a kind of slightly ham-fisted way of doing that. I can see a situation maybe next season where Jackers does become the kind of permanent number one. This is clearly an attempt to try and keep everybody happy and everybody fresh, but I think you're actually... you're laying down more banana skins than you need to, and the chances of you maybe injuring one of these keepers or creating a dynamic that you could have avoided by rotating a bit just isn't helpful. And I think from a defender's point of view, although defenders are well coached and trained in these things, so they'll be used to working with both goalkeepers. But I think you want to know who's there. And although you know everybody and you're well drilled and you're well coached, I think just there's something psychologically about that flipping a little bit, I think, that just isn't good. That's just my own view in that thing. I think you have to stick to these things. So I think privately, if Nicky Hyan and his staff were open-minded about maybe who the number one might be longer term, that kind of should have been kept, more private than it has been. I don't think many people really understand this decision, really. I don't know how you feel about it, Joris, because you're quite critical of goalkeepers and famously so here at the BFP. What's your take on this?
Well, difficult to ask me about last weekend's game where Mignolet basically, is probably the main factor why Club Brugge didn't lose that game, but even managed to win. Of course, in the winning part, Mignolet didn't really have anything to do, but that they still were in the game and could win it, that was very much up to him, down to him, actually. If I don't think they really were hoping for that, because for Mignolet to deteriorate, that's maybe a slightly overstretched wording, but of course it's never bad to have someone at a really good level, and especially Mignolet in this form. He's not always in this form, but when he is in this form, then he's clearly the number one in Belgium still, even at his age. Of course, there is that feeling that maybe they want to test Jackers a bit more as well, and maybe the beginning of the season is the moment for that. Mignolet is now down in his last year of contract as well, so that's the main factor why they want to go for Jackers. I don't believe there will be another extension for Mignolet. or if so, then with clear instructions, and that maybe next year they would switch the rules for sure if it doesn't happen this season already. Yeah, okay, that might be sounding a bit like devaluating the league a little bit, but on the other hand, and the league opponents, but on the other hand, we do know indeed, like in the league, that it is at the moment with the playoffs, the major point is still at the end of the season and not now. Now is indeed a time where you could experiment a little bit. Also, it's not completely unheard of the last few seasons, although usually there's more reasons. But like that clubs are rotating a bit more. I believe Ben is in a town where or a city where that actually happened a few seasons ago, or maybe last season as well. There's some rotating between the goalkeepers, depending on the opponents in Brighton and then like in Arsenal also famously, which also led to one of them going, of course, ultimately. But yeah, so if that I think they're indeed trying to delay the decision a little bit and test the waters for Jakkers at the same time. And maybe it's not the worst time to do so because of the format. So I'm not super positive about it. I also feel like maybe it's not ideal to I also still feel like not ideal to rotate the goalkeepers. Like Scott was mentioning, like you need for defenders and everyone in the side. Anyway, it's always a little bit different. Goalkeepers have different specialities, and then especially when coming out or on set pieces, for example, there might be different instructions depending on the strengths and the weaknesses of the offset goalkeepers, of the respective goalkeepers. But I believe for this side that should not be a big issue. I don't have their complete schedule for the next few weeks or months for me. Of course, there are the European qualifiers. That's most likely going to be Salzburg. To already have a little preview on that, since this week we won't be touching on Club Brugge anyway yet in Europe, apart from this sentence. But I feel like it's weird, but I still can kind of understand it with the timing and everything around it. As long, and that seems to be the case, as it's clear for everyone as well involved. So for the goalkeepers themselves, they're fine with it. Internally, it seems like to the outside world, they seem to be okay with it. But okay, we will have to see, obviously, if. Also, it could become it maybe just passes like nothing, or maybe it becomes a bigger topic if one of them would eventually have a fumble that costs them a point or a few points, or Europe. So in Europe would be even worse for them at the moment, but to not progress, for example. But I think it's a gamble they're willing to take at the moment, and like a calculated gamble maybe a bit as well. And I can get that reasoning. Yeah, and then maybe to segue a bit more to other goalkeepers as well. I don't find a good way to do it, so I'll just jump through it as well. So, of course, there was one. Of course, in Genk there also seemed to be that might actually become more of an issue, but won't talk about it much more than this. Than this one line as well this time, but like it looks like Van Combrugge might move back to the second goalkeeper positions very soon, or at least whether that's already this weekend or coming up in a few weeks, that's something else. But I don't know if everything is been very clear with everyone, so that's a potential bomb on that other side that was involved in that game as well. Unfortunately for him, he had some decent saves, but he also did not look really good on both goals, especially the second one either. So that could become an issue. But okay, that's one thing. But indeed, want to praise mainly this weekend the goalkeepers. Not less than 5 goalkeepers were chosen by the fans. That is, of course, but so it's still subjective. But to become man of the match this weekend. So Mignolet already mentioned, De Lange actually also already mentioned. Leijsen had a really good game at Leuven as well. Unfortunately for him, the last 5 minutes were a bit less well, although he couldn't really do much about anything, I believe. same-ish thing for Roof as well. Still voted man of the match, but yeah, the final minutes of this game was not very well for him. Going well for him, conceding 3 in the last 15 minutes in the end. The last one I'm missing, but also want to give a special shout out and extra attention to Lammers as well. Voted for and then man of the match in that game against Union, and saving yet another penalty. He faced 9 now in a little over a year, or I believe that is. That's and he saved 5 of them, so more than half of the penalty saved or missed that I think it's actually saved in this case. That's quite impressive. So it doesn't happen too often, I guess, but yeah, it's time. It was time for the well-deserved praise. Credit where credit is due to all the goalkeepers, all of them Belgian as well. That became man of the match. Since it's a fan vote, okay, maybe that's not completely. That might play a little minor role in that as well, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you started the season with goalkeeper praise, so you've kind of banked that for goalkeeper kind of criticism later in. But you mentioned the club schedule. When you hear it, you'll be like, okay, that makes sense as to what they've said. They'll do it in August. It's Mechelen in the league. It's Mechelen, Cercle, Zultewagen, Westerlo, and then the last game of August is Ghent. So you can probably just stick Mignolet back in there if you want. But I think I saw somewhere that they kind of laid out who's going to be in goal when and stuff. And I think it goes up to the Westerlo or Ghent game. But yeah, I know we have lots of club fans that follow this and listen to this podcast. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys think as a fan of this. Like, what's your kind of opinion? Where are you hedging towards in the goalkeeper situation? Is it loyalty to Mignolet, or are you kind of like, now it's time to move on to Jackers? Or yeah, really, really interested to hear kind of what people have to say on that one. Layson save. I think there's one. It was Studic was 1-on-1, and it was like it looked like it was going top corner, and he just tipped it over the bar. It was a fantastic save, and yeah, not much he could do about the equaliser. Was hilarious because I think 2 years ago, Jalagnes scored an overhead kick in kind of injury time against Molenbeek, I think it was, that I saw. And he does it in this overhead kick in injury time. He had a good game, to be fair. He was Leuven really did not know how to deal with him kind of coming in and into attacking positions out of left back. Like, there were so many times where he was getting into the box and stuff. And same old Leuven, just continuously disappointing us.
That was the team talk the post-match team talk that I wanted to hear most this weekend. Was that one, David Ubers, because, to throw away, 3 points like that. Now, we know we get a lot of late goals because of, added on time now. You know what I mean? 90-minute games, are on average now becoming 100-minute games. You know what I mean? Even Fred van der Beest at Mechelen was saying that, they've been talking about preparing for that in substitutions, actually, factoring in at least an extra 10 minutes because of that. But yeah, to kind of throw away a game like that, I think, hugely frustrating, I think. And he was actually talking about the kind of psychological impact of that, and there's still been a hangover of a lack of confidence in the squad and how that is going to not do anything to help that at all. So yeah, I really wanted to know what David Hubert said in the dressing room this weekend. So anybody was in the dressing room, if they want to hit us up and tell us what the message was after that, because that's where I wanted to be at full time after that game.
We'll see what they're like next game and see if they it shows if they've learned anything from that. Be interesting to see. Final little segment before we head off for the week. We'll do this one every week. Probably it'll be a player of the week from everyone. Again, I've got Joris has put down like 5 names, so I don't know who's he going to bring up. Scott hasn't put down anyone yet, so I have no idea who he's going to bring up. So I'm hoping neither of you. I know Joris hasn't taken mine, but I don't know if Scott's going to take mine. I'm going to presume not, but we'll find out. But yeah, Scott, I'll go to you first. Who is your player of the week from Matchday 1?
Well, mine might be a little bit obvious, but I think it's important. His name is certainly in the mix. Torgan Hazard. Really good. Not helped, I suppose, by the fact that Westerlo had no idea how to handle him this weekend at all. He was roaming all over the place. Go and have a look at Torgen's heat map for this weekend. Seriously, all over the place, particularly down the right-hand side. I mean, we know he's one of these players that if you sit off him, even this early in the season, and give him space, you know, it is just kind of asking for trouble, particularly with a Westerlo side which don't seem to know how to defend at the moment. Thomas van den Kiebus saying we played ourselves into the shit. That was the quote that came from him, talking about their attempts to play out from the back, and emphasis on attempts because they didn't manage it really very well at all. Anderlecht, of course, playing a high press as well, which just played into, into those weaknesses. But yeah, I mean, Hazard was really good this weekend. Aside from his 2 goals, could have had another couple actually. He could easily have had 4 goals this weekend. 4 chances created aside from that as well. 3 separate shots on target. Yeah, I mean, probably could have had 4 or 5 in this game. Just looked really good. Hopefully he can stay fit because we know that's a bit of an issue. But yeah, he was really good, I think. Quite a lot we could probably say about Anderlecht in a positive sense this weekend. You know, some other players as well may get a mention in a minute, I'm guessing. No spoilers, anybody from me. Yeah, interesting conversation to have about how we feel about Anderlecht. You know, just a couple of words on them generally from me. Nice to see so many young players out there. That's always exciting and good, particularly when some of them look actually really quite good, which isn't unsurprising for those who are kind of keeping an eye on some of these players. Really, it's just nice to see them getting that opportunity. And the other thing I did like about them was a bit more physicality. Obviously, they were more aggressive and they were trying to play a high press. But yeah, there were a couple of elements to their game that just were missing last season, have been missing in recent years, that we saw plenty of this weekend. And albeit they were nowhere near as good in the second half, really, particularly the first 15, 20 minutes, it was kind of like, what's happened here? They completely relinquished control of the game for a little while, which might have been pretty frustrating for Besnik Hazi. But yeah, we'll come back to Anderlecht in a bit more detail because I think there's kind of quite a lot to say there. But yeah, player of the week for me, the very unknown newbie, Mr. Torgen Hazard.
Now, I'm glad you brought him up because I feel like that performance is kind of what we've been hoping to see from Hazard since he signed. I think that's what Anderlecht fans have been hoping to see since he signed, his goals, kind of direct play, making defenders struggle to keep up with him, to kind of track him or do anything like that. I mean, yeah, you're right. It helped he was playing Westerlo, who, yeah, can't defend, don't sign defenders, only sign young strikers to wind me up and just, yeah, confuse me no end, because I think I brought it up in the pre-season preview how they've got a load of players in that kind of top position, and they're going and signing an 18-year-old from Newcastle on loan. But they are signing a right back as well, apparently. But he's probably a very attacking right back.
Should we tell everybody the phrase you actually used was, they're trying my patience now? We're quite frank talking. When we talk privately one another, we don't muck about here at the BFP. So yeah. They're trying Ben's patience. We'll put that out there. Absolutely, yeah.
Saw the rumour come out. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was like that woman that gets told that there's going to be another election in the UK, and she's like, another one? You've got to be joking. That was me.
That's a great meme.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Joris, I'll go to you in a second because I know you might want to bring up some Anderlecht players as well. It did make me laugh because I only was able to tune in. By the time I came, I think it just gone 3-2 or gone 4-2. And I was like, I really like to look at this Basil Vronics guy. Like, he looked really good at the back. And I think Joris was like, you must have missed when he came on. He didn't look so great. But as the game progressed, like what I saw, I was like, this guy looks good at 18. Great hair, very iconic hair. Like you can spot him a mile away. If you're gonna kind of catch the eye and you've got good hair, like it just automatically brings that player to the fore. And I feel like you could put him in like a bygone era, and he'd have probably been a mullet man back in the day. Like I feel like he's given me kind of retro vibes, and I liked the kind of the kit as well was slightly retro. So it's like, yeah,
Fossey's got some competition.
Fullbacks. Finally. Flowing curls, and Preciado obviously used to be a great one for that as well. Like we need more of them in the Pro League, that's for sure. Joris, I won't steal any more of your time because I know you. I don't know if you're going to mention one. I don't know if you're going to mention all of them, but I know that it isn't mine, so I don't really care.
I'm just gonna not necessarily go on mine, but just go talk a bit more about Anderlecht and Westerlo, I guess. Actually, like it's on Westerlo, it can be short, I guess, but it's mainly. They do indeed do all these things. Scott already mentioned the other pain point. Well, Van de Kerk actually mentioned the other pain points. they only have all these strikers and then trying to play from the back. This boggles my mind. Why? Like, try to get that ball as quickly as possible up front in that case. So that might be something that's on Shagai, partially at least, although last season they already were also doing that. But yeah, we'll have to see what Shagai can do with this. And indeed, they signed Lucas Mbamba, so Noah Mbamba's brother, just today. I guess that's official. He made as we speak, so that's Tuesday, the 29th. But yeah. But on that, yeah, one of my shortlisted players, and I will throw him in here, not as my player of the week then, but as a name I want to drop in as well, is actually playing on the other wing of Anderlecht, Angulo. A bit more surprising maybe, because he actually gets a lot of, well, a lot of the things that Van der Kamp is playing into, or is thinking his teammates was playing into. But yeah, that's really more surprised, but a really nice assist. Fair enough on that goal. Ljungdahl should not come out, but nice assist and actually a nice finish nonetheless. Despite Ljungdahl coming out, not many players would chip the ball or get the ball over the goalkeeper like De Geef did, one of the other youngsters. So Angulo, and of course his brilliant goal as well, like one of the goals of the weekend. For sure, and an important one at that. That was a 3-2. So what pulled them over the line, maybe eventually after the initial setback of conceding 2, and then the equalizer from Frijan even. Anderlecht on the rest, Anderlecht, difficult for my opinion on them to be honest. Like at the back themselves, they also didn't really look good. And if Angulo would not have had that moment of brilliance, who knows what would have happened. So I'm not completely sold on them yet after one game, but at least there seems to be some prominence in signs like these youngsters, and I think the most impressive one we didn't mention yet, even in the cut, getting also immediately getting an assist, first starting 11 spot. Of course, he already featured by the end of last season, already scored as well, even. But that's. That really got them off in a good season. And like I feel like this midfield tandem that was one of the lukewarm hot takes, I'll throw it in here then maybe, is that the tandem Liansana the Cats is going to keep Hazi longer in post than we all expect, because they really bring something new to that side and really make a difference. That Anderlecht midfield looks a lot stronger. Of course, still with a few youngsters in there, so like we can't be sure this will be happening every week, or that they will even feature every week as well. But I feel like this is a really good core as well, and the Katia really was everywhere on the pitch. And then at nearly 17 years, I think he just became 17. He had his birthday like in July, I think it was, or maybe June, but not that long ago. Just turned 17, 2008. Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah, for sure. So that's for that. Should I maybe segue into my own player of the week then? Okay, so Angulo was on the short list. Mignolet, we already actually talked about a little bit as well, so maybe I'll go for the third choice I had there. And he actually didn't play that long. Maybe he played 20 minutes, 30, I don't even know. But it is a usual suspect from last season that comes back in Bertaccini with an immediate impact on his side. That's why that put him in there as well. In those little minutes he got another goal, he got an assist as well. And Sint-Truiden won again against Gent in an opening game of the season. I believe that's now the 5th time in a row. I'm not sure if it's... Yeah, that's definitely 5th time in a row, but I don't know if it's in 5 consecutive seasons as well. That I'm not sure. But they open a lot, I guess. This is really one of the favorites, or maybe the favorite opening fixture of the season. And Sint-Truiden always wins against Gent. So that's... difficult to judge the season, how the season will go for both sides either. Anyway, this is just a given. But at least they got them goal and assist. Immediate impact, got them the win that they needed. And still it still gives us the same question as we had during the preview as well. Who will score the goals when he doesn't? Of course, he like now it was an own goal that scored one of the other goals as well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'll leave more of that. I stepped on Ben's toes here a little bit. That I'm taking someone from Sint-Truiden and talking a bit more about this game already. So I'll leave Ben to well either comment on this or pitch in with his own player, or maybe he makes another switch. Who knows?
No, it's too late now. It's far too late. That was kind of the Franken revenge game, wasn't it? Getting his revenge on the Buffaloes. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I feel like we had a lot of debut goals. I haven't gone through and counted them, but Kanga scored in his debut in this one as well. We had Henry score in his debut. I'm sure there were a couple of others, but I just can't pull the kind of names out of my head just now. But it felt there were more than that, but I can't quite remember who else scored. Saliba, Ilamar Icha, yeah, Saliba as well scored. I think it was like one of his first touches for Anderlecht. Anyway, the player I've gone with was also on the score sheet in that game, and that was Japanese midfielder Ryotaro Ito. I've always been a big fan of him since he joined Sint-Truiden. He's just such like a tidy, creative player. Created 5 chances in this game. And I think that kind of really does empathise the point of Joris that who is going to score the goals, like because this guy can create. And like when he first joined, I think he got 7 goals and 4 assists in his first season. Last year, only 2 goals and 3 assists. And when you watch him play, you feel like his numbers should just be so much higher than that. Maybe he's kind of gets a little bit of Canoes treatment, like gets pre-assists, stuff like that. He's involved in the creation of the chance and stuff like that. But he's just such a tidy player. And it is kind of, there were times last season because of the situation they were in where Mazu wouldn't play him, or wherever one of the other many coaches that they had just wouldn't play him. And it always would disappoint me seeing a Sint-Truiden line it without him in it, because he's just such a really kind of fantastic player to watch. It was nice to see him get a goal. It'd be nice to see him get some more assists. If Ferrari can find the net, that's the question. Because, Bertuccini said he might have scored his last goal for the club. He doesn't know if he scored the last goal for his club. Kind of wait and see on that one. He's been linked with kind of, I think Coventry are interested now. Anderlecht are still interested. Like that should happen. But at the moment, if I'm Franken, I'll be like, look, while you're here, do you mind just starting? And I kind of get it. It's kind of like with Genk, where it's like you anticipate that he's going to leave, so why bother starting with him? Like, let's just get on with the season as if he's not there, and then we can bring him off the bench and he can have an impact there. But I think with the likes of Bertuccini, he's always going to give you 110% anyway, in the classic footballing cliche terms. So why not put him out there? Ito can get maybe some more assists. But Ito was my man of the match from that one. We've just probably got a little bit of time to quickly skim over the European action that is coming up. Obviously, we had the first legs of qualifiers. We mentioned that Club will play Salzburg or Blan from Bergen in Norway. Salzburg are 4-1 up, so I think that's a foregone conclusion. Then we know that's going to be happening. Anderlecht are in Europa League action. They beat BK Hachen 1-0 at home. They now obviously travel to Gothenburg in Sweden for the reverse leg of that one. Charleroi drew 0-0 with Hammarby away from home. I believe that was, if I can quickly find where. I mean, if anyone's trying to find the Europa Conference League fixture results and fixtures on the FootMob app, which is kind of the main app that I use, it's impossible. That list is so long because there are so many flipping teams. And if you click on them, half of them are probably from bloody Malta. It just seems like Malta and Gibraltar have like 1 million teams entered into this competition every single season. I don't know how they've got such a monopoly on it. It's ridiculous. But Charleroi drew 0-0 with Hammarby. Now Hammarby come back to Belgium. I fancied Charleroi chances after that. I thought they might lose the first leg and then struggle in the second leg. At home, they might have a better chance. You'd kind of back them a little bit more, but I think it's tough. It's going to be tough because they showed against Leuven that, they're not at their free-flowing best. If they ever had a free-flowing best, that's for sure. Anderlecht guys, we expect them to get past Hacken, but it's Anderlecht, and we expect them to do things prior to that. So just quickly, are we getting 2 teams through this week, or what? What do you guys think?
I think Anderlecht will get through. I think Charleroi are going to have to play really well to do it, because Hammarby are 18 games into their domestic season, are sitting second in the league at the moment. They're scoring an average 2 goals a game and conceding less than 1 on average. So on the balance of probability at the moment, I think Charleroi are going to lose, unfortunately. Hope I'm wrong. But yeah, Anderlecht to go through and Charleroi to lose.
Yeah, and to name another relatively young, I guess even, but Belgian goalkeeper that has an excellent performance in Europe. That was De La Vallée, who was man of the match in that game against Hammarby. I fear I'm a bit with Scott here. Yeah, Anderlecht. Häcken just lost 6-1 at home, I believe, in Sweden as well, without rotation even. So like, it's not that that's because of Europe necessarily. So they're having a bit of a more difficult season than last season for sure, so far. It's more because of that as well than completely being convinced by Anderlecht as well, that tilts me to that. Okay, I give Anderlecht, and they did win that first game, even though that also could have turned out differently. To be honest, that was a different performance for sure than against Westerlo. But they did manage to win that one. We need to pull it over the line away from home, but you would expect them to do so. Charleroi, yeah, there's that factor of indeed actually facing a better Swedish side than a better opponent than Anderlecht. Additionally, I feel like, okay, maybe, hopefully, they got some confidence out of those stoppage time goals and the stolen, not stolen, because that was the point. Actually, they actually created a lot of chances, but they couldn't manage to score, so they are struggling to score goals. Hopefully, they got some confidence out of those 2 goals in stoppage time last weekend. In the end, that to actually be able to create something more and then to score as well. Maybe something else I want to quickly segue to circle back to the league maybe as well. Like a few more sides I want to mention that are struggling to score, which is not a good sign. Circle already mentioned Charleroi. Eventually they scored 2, which is not too terrible, of course, but they needed a lot of chances for that. This weekend, Genk as well needed too many chances to score only 1 goal. And there La Louvière probably could have scored a little or 1 goal maybe. They were not playing as bad as it looked like in the first 10 minutes after those first 10-15 minutes. They're not the only ones. There's some other sides I'm still forgetting to as well, I think, but just wanted to mention those early contenders for relegation worries, or like worries for the season, because there's some sides in there that maybe won't struggle, but yeah, the goal scoring is an issue at the moment for them, on the basis of just 1 game, of course, in most cases. In Charleroi case 2 already, of course, and despite scoring twice. But yeah, I just still have that worry in general for them, that they might struggle to score goals. But we will see. Of course, it was also a really good goalkeeping performance on the other end of the pitch. So, but yeah. But to sum up, yes, I agree with Scott. Anderlecht through and Charleroi. No, okay, I'll say they go through, but it won't be easy. But it might be a 0-0 at penalties in my scenario. Then I guess
that's you're on the same wavelength with me. I'm thinking if they go through, it's 0-0 penalties. If they do go through, it's likely they'll be off to Norway to play Rosenborg, because Rosenborg, if I remember, they absolutely smashed Bangor Gargstad, everyone's favourite team. Anderlecht will also be off to Norway if they go through, because they should be off to Bergen to face Brann. So we're going to see Brann regardless of what happens in that Salzburg-Brann game, because one of our Belgian sides will be facing them, but it looks like Salzburg are going to beat Bergen.
If Anderlecht wins, of course. Big if still.
Yeah, that's true. But I think they will. And we'll see Frey Alexanderson back in Belgium for a little bit, for 90 minutes at least. that just about does it for this week's episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. If somehow you've made it here without listening to our pre-season preview, I don't know how you've done that, but feel free to go back and listen because, as every season, we dive into every single team in the Belgian Pro League. We split it over 2 episodes, so it's even easier to kind of digest. You can split it up yourselves. We will at some point hopefully be doing a Challenger Pro League preview once we know what the hell is going on with that league. We'll obviously keep people updated because we know that we have lots of people that follow the second tier and are interested in the second tier. And don't worry, we will still talk about the second tier within our new format. There is no way we are not going to talk about the Challenger. There's just so much good stuff going on there. It may be that comes out once the season's actually started, depending on kind of what happens in that situation. But yeah, I can't be bothered to go into that now. No one could be bothered to go into that now because we'd be here all night trying to talk about what is actually going to happen. So when that does eventually get started, we will preview it. We'll talk about all the clubs because, there's some teams that are making interesting moves down there and they should definitely be spoken about. And it should be a really exciting season with, a lot to play for and a lot not to play for, unfortunately, depending on how the structures find themselves sorted out. But guys, as always, it's been a pleasure speaking to you this evening.
It has indeed. Whatever you're up to, have a brilliant week, everybody. Same time, same place next week.
For the listeners, hopefully yes. At least for us, we will have to see. But definitely give us some feedback on the formats if you like this, what we're doing, or do you want? If you feel like we should better stick to what we used to. We might consider it. I'm not saying we again, like, not same as Ben. I'm not going to promise anything, but we will take things into consideration for sure. We'll have to see what fits our schedules as well. Anyway, of course. But yeah, it was a pleasure despite everything. And I didn't even need to talk that much about Genk. That might be for some listeners also really a relief. I'll also try to do that. This is actually a promise. I will never pick a player of Genk for my team of the week myself. I'm speaking it out loud, so maybe that's my hot take as well. At the same time, it's all coming full circle. And in general, I'll try to not dwell on Genk too much, except when it comes up naturally. I know I still did a few times here in this episode, but still, I hope it was not too annoying.
That is the hottest take, and we've waited until the end of the episode for it. I kind of rate that very highly. Like you always said, please do give us feedback. It really does help us know if what we're doing is what people like and what people are interested in. If you did like it, obviously, please leave a review on your podcast app of choice. If you've really enjoyed it, you can donate to us at Buy Me a Coffee. We will leave the link to the website in the show notes as well. We'll also leave a link to Scott's Substack, which is still going strong. Weekly articles from Scott on all things Belgian football. I've got some stuff going up on Get Belgian Football as well. So plenty of Belgian football stuff to keep you going in between the match days. We'll be back, like Scott said, next week. And in the meantime, have a great week. And we'll speak to you very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.